what I think is the message I've been chatting to one or two farmers I've walked across the showground already is an enormous sense of nervousness. I think it's a real challenge for us as an industry to get the balance right between the optimism that Darren touched on about being really pleased to have higher prices, but the sense of a squeeze that's going on between the input costs, the price increases that are being faced by farmers, and of course, as we see farmers quickly producing more as they move from a period of seeing higher prices to the fact they want to cash in on them and actually produce more at those higher levels. So I think the timing of this event, I think the forums we're going to have later on today, I think the whole discussions around the show are absolutely critical that we look at how we are going to implement technology going forward. The notion of trying to get more out of our natural resources, looking at how we make the most of the sun and the soil, to make sure that we're not having to lose all the better prices we've seen coming through from the marketplace, disappearing. Actually grows a little nervous, something that we don't want to spend it on fertiliser. It's not that as simple as that. It's about making more of the products we do have to buy. And when I look at the machinery that's being developed, I look at the technology that's being used, the massive, massive challenge for farmers is going to be how we keep hold of those price increases, how we use the inputs more efficiently, and we do try and use the soil and the sun to its maximum effect. Because that, as I say, is the real message I'm picking up from farmers, particularly in the livestock sector. But I do have to focus on the changes that have gone on in the prices. I think it is really significant, the speed at which we saw the turnaround in dairy prices last year. This, to me, was the most significant. We could, of course, focus on the concerns of the animal disease outbreaks of last year and the problems. When we saw the sudden turnaround in prices, it said to me very clearly, and we saw it in grains as well as dairy, the world actually hadn't got vast quantities in the cupboard anymore. And to all intents and purposes, the cupboard was bare. We've seen this mirrored now around the world, whether it's in rice, whether it's in other agricultural products, as we've seen food rights now. We've seen number 10 having a summit on food security issues. We saw at our NFU AGM only a few months ago, every speaker, barring Secretary of State Hilary Benn, talking about food security. I think it was quite significant. We didn't see Hilary talking about it, but the Prime Minister did, and mentioned it on 2 different occasions. So I do think the price jumps of the last year are important. It's fantastic. We are seeing that go through to the beef and the sheep sectors. That's absolutely critical. But as I made in my opening comments about use of technology, the challenge now is how we keep those prices going forward. One of the key things you've heard us advocate and talk about at the NFU, I think, for the livestock sector, is how we get our consumers to understand the value. It's why we had Why Beef and Sheep Farming Matters as a campaign last autumn. It's why we had Why Dairy Farming Matters. One was, and I think it did have some impact, how it made price increases more acceptable to retailers and consumers alike. It's also trying to make them understand what profitability is all about in the livestock sector. I'm going to talk here later on about NVZs, and I think when you look at the cost implications for many, many livestock farmers, if we haven't got that close understanding with our customers, we will see more of those nervous farmers I said bumped into walking across as I came to the showground, making a decision not to invest, not to produce for the future. We still have 48 dairy farmers every month leaving the industry. We still find ourselves way below quota for milk. At the time we see other countries in Europe expanding dairy production, we're still seeing it decline here in the UK. So when I go and talk to the policy makers in DEFRA, whether it's representatives from the Treasury or the government on a wider basis, I think we need to find ways increasingly of getting them to champion, to help and enable farmers to carry on producing and producing more, rather than, I refer back to the presentation I'll give later on MVZs, regulation that's going to hinder, that's going to tie farmers up with enormous extra costs. But fundamentally it's aimed at a problem that was identified and regulated back in 1991. A problem that was much more severe that actually we've done so much to really accommodate it, and we're now going to find we're going to regulate significant extra costs on the farmers. So I'm very nervous that we don't get the right signal still from government if we're going to look at that positive future. Some of the nonsense we get also leveled in the livestock industry about climate change, about methane emissions, nitrous oxide, and CO2, the carbon footprint. The notion that you can almost portray a cow as being worse than an aeroplane in the whole climate change debate has got to be as absurd as it gets. So, one of the big challenges, again, one of the values of why I think it is so important, this event is taking place now, it is to be looking at the research and development budget, it is to be looking at the technology that's available out there, that how we make sure that our nutrients are used really carefully. Because I'm absolutely convinced that farming is going to be more important than ever going forward. That farming does have a really positive message to convey. And it's probably made my job as challenging as it's been in the 2.5 years I've been doing this. It's trying to carry on that upbeat message about the importance of farming. While you meet so many farmers who are at a crossroads about making decisions on investment for the future, I think we'll be very careful that when we do see big jumps in prices, that the only press articles we see are farmers saying it's all a disaster. We've got to get the balance right. We do need to be positive about why the markets are strong, why the government needs to be more proactive in helping us be successful and competitive. And I would urge farmers, and I know it's not always easy to do it, our outward messages still need to be positive, that things are better, that we are looking at a better future. Because I think the industry's really got to work together to find solutions of how we make ourselves more profitable, more efficient, and produce more going forward. Because one of the things I'm convinced about is the government hasn't got shekels of new money for the farming industry. So it is a call for collaboration. It is the industry working together, the manufacturers of machinery, the people who are providing us with inputs, and the advisors, helping farmers do their job better. Because I think that way we're going to have a great, I'm optimistic, but it ain't in the bag. And we have to be very careful because this is being conducted in a European context. I will be saying later on, this is a really detailed negotiation of the Commission, wanting to see there's enough advancement being made without being seen to be giving in to the UK for actually being quite late in implementing MPZ regulations. As I said, it was a 1991 directive. I'm optimistic we can see some real wins. I'll allude to them later on. I'm hoping, we've as an organisation put a phenomenal amount of resourcing in MPZs. I'd like to think as an organisation, except for any other, we've paid a lot of money on external consultants, we've paid a lot of money into extra scientific studies, because no one else is actually putting that resource into going and grabbing DEFRA and saying, this is nonsense, this is wrong, the trends are falling, we're doing the job better. And someone's going to make them sit up and realise that doing a desk job analysis in Whitehall, as you said, means you've got another 200 acres required. So I'm optimistic we're making progress. What we've tried to do is look at the science. And if there's areas where soils can take more nitrogen, can take more slurries, the closed periods can be shorter, we want that to be practical and applicable to those farmers, those regions, rather than saying everyone should have that additional cost. Now, I know it might seem unfair that some people will be outside it, but if there's no need to put a 50, 100 grand cost onto a farm, you'd kick my backside if I didn't do my best to see that, put to one side. So we do want science. If I move away from arguing about good science doing the right thing in the right place, I wouldn't have a leg to stand. The reasons why we've had low stocks around the world is that £60 a tonne for wheat. It ain't profitable to grow it. And the dairy production at 18p a litre, that's why people are hemorrhaging the industry. Give us an investment, give us the sort of return we need, and people will produce more. And the government needs to move from just the rhetoric that the Prime Minister gave at our AGM to actually give some really positive, enthusiastic signals about helping us produce more, but also helping the environment at the same time.